Some of the things that surprised me when listening to the cast, I'm not sure weren't born of the generation I'm from and the generation they're in, but it doesn't surprise me that they want a fair democracy. I think I was surprised to hear, no matter what their political affiliation, that they all seem to think that tearing down the two-party system would be a really good thing to do. That was news to me. I had associated that with a lefty liberal point of view, and to hear a right-wing conservative share that view, it fed into my hope, which was we're more alike than we are different.
Yeah, so we're packing, we're leaving tomorrow. We're going to North Carolina in the mountains and will not have phone access for 3 days.
To help them be immersed in nature and present with each other as they explore environmental issues, they will be on a social media fast, which means relinquishing their cell phones.
It's like interesting about like environmental problems like disproportionately affect people of color.
You know, Flint was the only city within that county that got switched to the Flint River as its water source.
There's still people who are like in those same conditions, like nothing has changed. So it is really relevant.
I want to ask about like the way that women get demeaned in rap music. How do black women deal with that?
The thing that I'm offended by more in rap music is colorism.
Yeah, that's actually specifically demeaning black.
And you know that it actually is
One
true.
thing that I hear all the time, like, oh, like that rap music, especially white feminists. That's who I hear it coming from the most, which is an invalid source for me.
Yeah.
But I still like
even when you hear
hear
people say like, oh, da-da-da is the year that women got the right to vote. It's like, what women?
white women.
Everybody didn't get the right to vote.
Right.
At the same time. And the Irish were slaves too.
You sound like, what was that, Megyn Kelly?
Oh, did she say that? Probably. I'm sure
it was her or Ann Coulter, one of them.
Sure.
Sometimes Ann Coulter actually makes me turn off Fox News. She says some of the most ridiculous things.
Sometimes. Lord it be.
I have a book by her.
I didn't realize
Why?
Ann
It's
Coulter
called
had a
How to
show.
Talk to Liberals.
What? Do you know how to talk to liberals?
I haven't read it. It's just on my bookshelf.
You guys want to hear some of my haikus that I wrote this morning?
Yeah.
Far from everything, I wonder what we'll eat. Where's the grocery store? It is raining now. Have not felt a single drop. Trees. An umbrella.
That's much better than me attempting to rap.
No, do it.
Go.
Missing something. Oh, there you are.
Today we woke up in a camp. It was wet and it was damp. It was early, we were sticky. The trees were raining, it was icky. Today we're going on a Jeep tour. I'm anticipating rain at 3 p.m., so I've got my handy dandy umbrella.
The world is your Jeep.
We should get some good views of rafters coming down Nantahala Falls right up here.
North Carolina is such a beautiful place.
This rapid is the first rapid in the Cascades.
This actually reminds me a lot of Northern California.
Trey, do you guys have wildfires here?
It's pretty unusual in this area to actually start small controlled burns so that large fires can't come in and out.
Oh, wow. Do a lot of restaurants that are around here use the local produce that's grown in this area?
Most of them, I would say, yes.
We're going to stop here. We're going to grab a bite to eat.
So we stopped for lunch, and Trey is giving us kind of the history of the area.
This is a really unique place. In the early 1800s, when Andrew Jackson was president, he signed something called the Indian Removal Act. The Cherokee were being removed from land that the federal government had already given them.
Wow.
You know, we were the original immigrants. The plight of the American Indian is the original story of American racism. We always think of it as a black and white, of a slavery and a free. The story of the Cherokee happened long before settlers ever came to this area.
My first impression of Trey was just that he was a very welcoming person and so excited to just talk to us about environmental issues affecting the area and the history of the area, which he was obviously very passionate about.
A lot of environmental justice issues disproportionately affect low-income communities or communities of color. So in this area, like, do you find that to be true?
We do not have a large populations of people of color. You might have a Hispanic culture, and you might have a white culture, and you might have a black culture in each of your individual cities. We have a Southern culture. Socioeconomically, we all exist on a pretty even playing field. You don't see these disparages in economics based upon culture or background.
For me, it's really bizarre that people think that we're so past slavery and so past racism when there are people alive today who experienced Jim Crow.
The other thing is when everybody thinks about the South, we think of American slavery. This area was not a part of that, more or less. I mean, there might have been a splotch here, a splotch there where you would have plantations.
A plantation here, a plantation there. And it's just like, I felt like he was being too dismissive of slavery.
The influence of slavery is way different in this area than it is in, say, Atlanta, Georgia, Charleston, South Carolina.
You don't have to make it look like this area had fewer slaves than, say, Mississippi, because at the end of the day, this area had slaves.
Everybody here has a responsibility and the ability to gain a job. Some people are definitely a little bit higher in the socioeconomic class. Some people are definitely lower, but we find that's more from personal decision.
It really bothers me when I hear poverty and it sounds like we're saying that people choose to be poor.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to travel and seen just incredible poverty. I have received more warmth and welcomeness from communities that live at the median income level or below.
So I'm sitting there, I'm annoyed, I'm fuming, but I don't know how to address it.
Earlier you were saying that everybody has an opportunity and it's all based on personal choice. Do you think that's true to the entire nation?
I believe that people do have a choice to rise above their situation.
You feel like some people have more access to that opportunity than others?
Absolutely.
There was a professor at my university. He said it took 4 to 6 generations to get out of poverty if your parents worked out of a plantation in the West Coast.
If anybody can find their way out to here and they have a solid application, we will hire them and teach them how to raft guide. And we will give them the ability to come out of that.
And at that point, I just died laughing. Because I was just like, are you serious?
I believe that you have to make the choice.
What makes you think they have the means to pay for transportation to North Carolina to know that they can get a job leading tours of the Appalachian Trail? All I could do was laugh. I didn't know what to say.
We've got to get on the trail. We've had some great conversation, but I think it's about time.
Some of the things he said turned a lot of the girls off. So when lunch was over, everyone was at their boiling point and the steam needed to be let out. Oh, and it was.
His looking at poor people like their redeeming quality is like, oh, they were so nice to me. Oh, but they were so kind, so welcoming, those poor people.
That did seem a bit constantly. White upper class privilege is being saying like, yeah, I prefer living in a low income area, like having that
is a
choice
privilege
and like
in our own
vocalizing that, be like, oh, I love being around like low income areas. They're so kind
I don't have
and
cable. I have an
community-oriented. And I'm like, that's like not the reality for most people. Like people don't get to choose what class they're in.
I don't think
he's ill-intentioned, but I think that just goes to show that like people who don't have to consider a race, the way that they talk about it, there's like racist undertones. And it's
Because we never
difficult
had
to
it.
hear somebody who claims that we have give opportunities to everybody, everyone's Southern first. Like, that's like a very white American sentiment. Like, I could never say that I'm American first because no one will ever look at me as American first.
Exactly.
Why do you guys think it was easier for him to acknowledge the racism against Native Americans than it was for him to acknowledge it against Black people? Or so easy for him to like downplay it and
Because
say
he's
like, oh,
probably
there was a
less
plantation
connected
here,
to
a
that.
plantation there.
Because there's less of a connection.
Well, he's sitting at a table.
Yeah.
He's probably very uncomfortable.
Everyone except Jessica was really angry and we were all just kind of like spewing out our thoughts. And Jessica just took a step back and she was like, what if he's saying these things because he doesn't know that he's wrong?
I think a lot of the issues can be solved with conversation and with people on both sides not being so idealistic. You can't be afraid to take a leap and do something different that might make some people upset. Everyone's not gonna understand who haven't walked in our shoes. I feel like the girls ended the potential to continue a relationship with Trey and continue talking about these social issues, taking him into their world. It takes time. It's not all going to happen in one conversation, but if you get mad and you don't say anything, you're not sure how to express yourself, you lose a really huge opportunity to impact someone who's really influential in his community, can probably teach someone as well.